December used to be Mrs. R's favorite season. She
Mhm.
was the one, pulling out all the decorations right after Thanksgiving, baking cookies, Motown Christmas classics blasting.
The center of the celebration.
Totally. But this year, it's different. The lights are still in the attic. She's quiet. And when her grandson asks if she wants to help with the gingerbread house, she just says, I don't want to slow anyone down.
That is a scenario that is just heartbreakingly common. And it's so hard for families to know what to do.
Right.
It's so easy to see that the quietness, refusing to join in and think it's just sadness or maybe stubbornness or just, part of getting older.
Exactly. But our mission in this deep dive is to look at this through a different lens. The source material frames this not just as an emotional state, but as
Huh.
a form of behavioral withdrawal. It's driven by the environment.
And by learned patterns. The key idea here is something called avoidance reinforcement.
Okay, so let's define that, because that term, it reframes everything.
It really does. Avoidance reinforcement is, it's actually pretty simple. If stepping away from something, the act of avoidance, makes pressure or anxiety or just that feeling of being overwhelmed, stop.
Then the brain sees that avoidance as a reward.
Precisely. It reinforces the behavior. And that insight changes the game. The withdrawal stops being a rejection of you or the holiday.
And it becomes a form of communication.
Yes, it's communication about trying to manage a really high-demand environment.
That makes perfect sense. If it works once, you're going to do it again.
Yes.
So let's unpack this. What makes the holiday season so behaviorally demanding, even though we all associate it with joy?
Well, the number one culprit is a massive disruption to routine. For an older adult especially, predictability is a powerful stabilizer.
It's a comfort.
It's a huge comfort. When routines vanish, anxiety goes up because the environment is suddenly less familiar, less predictable, and then you add in crowded spaces, more background noise, activities with a lot of steps.
Like setting a huge table or wrapping a complicated gift. So it's not the fun that's the problem. It's the unpredictability and the sensory shift.
Yes, we're suddenly asking their brain to process 100 things instead of the usual 5. It's a sensory overload. There's actually research that directly links that environmental overstimulation, the noise, the crowding, to an increase in these avoidance behaviors.
So when they're quiet, we shouldn't assume it's despair. It could be, a survival mechanism?
That's a great way to put it. It's the easiest coping strategy when things become too much. The withdrawal is literally them saying, there's too much going on, or I really don't want to be corrected or make a mistake in front of everyone.
Right, so let's talk about the specific cues, the things you might actually see.
Mm-hmm.
The sources mention being quieter than usual, maybe choosing a seat in the corner or just spending more time away from the main group.
Right, like retreating to a bedroom or a quiet study, or just opting out of things they used to love, like a gift exchange.
And this brings up a really crucial question people ask. Is this the same as depression?
Not necessarily. And that's a key distinction. This kind of withdrawal often shows up specifically around those busy, noisy, unpredictable activities.
Whereas depression tends to affect mood across the board, right?
Exactly. Regardless of the noise level. So if they seem fine and engaged in their quiet home environment, but they withdraw at the big family gathering, the environment is very likely the trigger, not a general decline in their mood.
That distinction, fine at home, withdrawn at the party, that's so important. It really points to the environment.
It does. Home is predictable. They know where things are. The noise level is controlled. A gathering adds all these unfamiliar rhythms.
So what about that phrase Mrs. R used, I don't want to slow everyone down? Behaviorally, what is that really saying?
That phrase is it's so powerful. It's rooted in a fear of negative reinforcement. It's code for, I'm afraid I won't be able to keep up, or maybe I've been corrected before, and I don't want to feel that shame again.
So our job isn't to argue with them and say, oh, you're not slow.
No, that can backfire. The job is to provide reassurance that reframes the whole interaction. Something like, we're on your pace today. Just having you here is what matters, not how fast we get this done.
Which brings us to the fixes. If this withdrawal is a communication, what should we be communicating back? What are the behaviorally informed adjustments we can make?
We need to use strategies that interrupt that cycle of avoidance. The goal is to guarantee success and rebuild confidence, even in tiny ways.
Okay, strategy 1 is about routines. Anchor routines.
Yes. Even if the day is chaotic, keep 1 or 2 small routines exactly the same.
Like coffee at the same time every morning, or listening to certain music.
Exactly. That little piece of predictability acts like a cognitive shield. It protects their confidence when everything else feels messy.
I love that. A cognitive shield.
Mm.
And strategy two seems related. Offer low-demand opportunities. This is about guaranteeing that success you mentioned.
It is. So instead of a huge request like, help us cook dinner, you offer a micro choice. Would you help me pick one ornament for this branch? Or could you choose which ribbon we use for this gift? It's a task with a guaranteed successful outcome.
And that successful outcome positively reinforces engagement. It helps break the cycle.
It builds momentum, a small win.
Okay, that makes so much sense. So moving on to the environment itself, strategy three is about reducing the chaos.
We have to remember the environment is a powerful taskmaster. We need to lower the sensory overload, turn down the music, keep walkways clear, and this is a big one, create a soft landing zone.
A soft landing zone.
A designated quiet corner, maybe a side room with a comfy chair and dimmer lighting that's explicitly available to them. It gives them a safe, predictable place to retreat to without having to completely withdraw to their bedroom.
I've never thought of that. And what about strategy four? This one addresses dignity through shared control.
This is so important because sometimes our well-intentioned help can accidentally signal you can't do this yourself.
Right. And then refusing help becomes about protecting their identity, not about being defiant.
Exactly. So we restore their sense of agency with shared control. Instead of saying, here, let me do that, you invite them to lead in a small way.
So you might ask, which cookies should we bake first? Or should we start with the garland? Or the lights?
Perfect. Or just say, let's do this together. You tell me when you need a pause. You're a partner, not a director.
And thinking back to Mrs. R, strategy five seems to directly address her fear. Slowing down help.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just wait. Give them a few seconds of silence before you jump in to help. That brief pause allows them to start the action themselves or ask for help on their own terms.
It gives them back the control.
It does. And this applies to big traditions, too. We don't have to
Wow.
get rid of them. We just need to create micro versions.
So Mrs. R doesn't have to bake cookies all day.
Maybe she just stirs the dough once or just chooses the cookie cutters. You preserve the spirit of the tradition, but you drop the overwhelming behavioral demand.
When we connect all these dots, this really is an adaptation story, isn't it? It's not a story of decline.
That is the perfect way to frame it. Every behavior is telling a story about comfort or overwhelm or confidence. It's all about adaptation.
And it all seems to tie back to this idea of cognitive load.
Yes, cognitive load,
Yeah.
which is just the total mental effort you're using at any given moment. The holidays, with all the novelty and unpredictability, they just massively increase that load.
So all these behavioral strategies are really about simplifying the environment to reduce that load.
That's the goal, reduce the load to make engagement feel safe and rewarding again.
And the style of how we do this matters too. The sources are clear. Gentle invitations, not pressure. No overenthusiastic cheerleading.
That can feel so coercive. It can make them feel like their anxiety isn't being taken seriously. It's better to honor the first no and then just try again later with an even smaller, easier step.
It's all about predictability.
It really is. The research shows older adults who maintain even small, predictable routines show significantly higher engagement during these high-stress times. Predictability is the quiet stabilizer.
So for you, listening, the core reframing is this. Their behavior isn't a rejection of you or the holiday. It's a learned response to the environment and a fear of disappointment.
And our goal is to make that environment safe enough so that engagement gets reinforced, not avoidance.
Even something as simple as putting a timeline for the day on the fridge can act as a stabilizer. It reduces that cognitive load and makes the day feel a little less heavy.
This deep dive really shows that joy, just like any behavior, is something that's learned and reinforced. And if the environment and predictability are the keys to engagement for our loved ones, well, it raises an interesting question for you.
Go on.
What small, non-holiday aspect of your own routine could you simplify or stabilize this week to reduce your own cognitive load and reinforce a behavior you want more of in your own life?
That is a fascinating thought to leave everyone with. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.